My son wasn't strong with my daughter, my granddaughter. But he couldn't because he was a dad that didn't have custody. See, so. But there was a weakness that allowed all that to happen anyway. And my wife did it to him. Oh, he's okay now. See? It takes time and patience and not worry about outcome. Never worry about outcome. In your heart, patient. Be the dog whisperer. Patient. Let all the dogs sniff you. Let all get all excited. You stay cool. And all of a sudden they feel calm and secure. And everything goes. But human beings, it's even more, takes it more than just being a dog whisperer, a pack leader. Because you have a spirit that is juxtaposed against their spirit. So you've got the shell of a body, but inside that body is a spirit. So you've got two things you're dealing with, not just the dog and pack leader. There's a spirit inside the dog, the wolf. You see? The serpent of paradise lost is what you're dealing with all the time. Even in your politicians, they'll lie to you. Okay, you watch them. You watch how they're lying to you with a straight face right now, and we don't know how to deal with it because we didn't know how to deal with our mother when she lied with a straight face. See? All right. Okay,
Denise is asking, should I cook my husband dinner when he talks to me like dirt? When I don't deserve it.
You need to cook his goose.
My husband is super irritated and judgmental person that finds fault with everybody everywhere he goes. How can I make him accountable for his actions with love and fairness?
Very simple. Make his dinner and let him complain about it and just enjoy your dinner. And keep making his dinner and don't try to improve on it. Make the dinner and let him complain and just say, okay, I'll think about it. And don't frustrate his frustration. Don't give the pleasure of trying to make it better or feeling obligated to not make his dinner. Make it, don't stop being a wife. And don't be too much of one. Keep being a wife. Make his dinner. He doesn't enjoy it. He gets up and throws the food on the ground. Make it again for him tomorrow. And make it again the next day. And always don't worry about the outcome. And it's magical. Don't be affected. If you're not affected, you will affect. It's the influence of no influence. It's the influence of not being influenced. You want to influence for good, don't let them influence you for bad. It means don't react to it. The fact that you are patient and enduring is God's authority in you over that beast. Got it?
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Joe is wondering, is a man ever really ready for a relationship with a woman?
No.
That's the short end of it.
No, but he's going to have to learn. Because a woman is there for him as a sort of training wheels.
Not a bicycle.
Is it you?
Okay, James in Los Angeles. Roy's method of meditation and standing back from thought. Is this what the Bible talks about when it teaches walking in spirit and being led by the Spirit of God in our lives?
Yes. You know, something about, like when you see Jesus on the cross and you read him, "Oh Father, in my hands I commend my spirit." That's all very dramatic. And when one thinks in terms of, of those words, it's just drama and a movie sort of thing. Even when you've never seen a movie and you read it, you have an imagination. It's just words, words, words. But there comes a time when you have spirit, you know that this is what's happening. So when he was on the cross, he knew about spirit. He knew about surrendering his spirit to the bosom of his Father, right? He knew it. It was a real thing. But the words that people watching didn't. People are word-oriented. They only hear words. These spiritual words are noises. They don't have any deep meaning. It's not an experience for them. It's somebody else experiencing it and hearing it and being moved by the performance. You see? But it's a real thing. I know about spirit. See, I have one in my body. I'm in my body. I know what suffering is. I know about people who try to make me suffer and try to rob me of my relationship with God by making me hate Him. That's what the cross was all about. Standing there and see, I won't hate them no matter what they do because they want me to hate them. If I hate them, I'm hating you. I want to say something about this. Human beings are made in the image of God even though they're deformed. They weren't mostly deformed that way. You can deform yourself. We become deformed in our behaviors, in our lifestyles, as you call it. However, so when you're dealing with a human being, you must remember that was made, that's image of God even though it's broken and deformed and demoralized. And it's demoralized because of a spirit. And that spirits want you to be demoralized. So it acts through them into you, and it cannot help itself. It does unto others what was done to them. Jesus says, do unto others as you would have. But nobody hears that really, understands it. So, but always does, because we're all slaves of sin. So when you break, you turn around and take it out on somebody else and you break them. And they turn around and break, and so it becomes exponential and you say goodbye to civilization. See, so it's like a virus, multiplying exponentially. And so when you are looking at a human being snarling at you, degrading you, they've been degraded. They weren't born that way. And there may be a good spirit in them, and there may not be. There may be something completely unredeemable. You're not to judge that. You have to deal with it the same way. Because if you hate the man and you hate the woman, if they succeed in getting under your skin, you're dead meat. Because when you hate the image of God, that shape form, when you hate that form in which we are created, you're actually hating God and separating. And the spirit inside that body knows it. You don't. Do you see? So therefore you must take into consideration that person's broken. And if he's not broken, if he likes what he is, if he's really a devil, all the more reason you don't hate him. Because he's still got the form. See that? At the form. That's why you're not supposed to make any graven image. Like Jesus on the cross. You don't want to go into a church that has Jesus out there on a cross, graven image. You've made a graven image of God. That's a mockery of the commandments. So I would feel uncomfortable walking into a church like that, but I'm me, I'm not ruined. But when you walk into a church with statues and everything in violation of the commandment, which they're supposed to uphold, they're violating you. But you violated so young, you get used to it. And then you worship the statue, and you're dead. Anyone who worships the statue and prays to it is dead. And never will recover unless they realize it. If you're Christians, you better pay attention to that.
All right, and John in New Hampshire is curious to know how life would be if Adam and Eve had not been disobedient.
No, there would be no life at all. They just died and there'd be no human race. So God knew it and knew that if he made another pair and another pair and another pair and another pair and another pair, nothing would happen because he knew that they couldn't resist the temptation. So he knew ahead of time what the result would be. So he let them fall and breed generations of fallen people. From one man, sin and death through sin spread through the human race, right? That's in the scriptures. And so therefore, we have our adversary. Where is our adversary? The adversary isn't the serpent in a tree, it's other people. It's in other people now. So now you have to learn to deal with people properly. You have to deal perfectly with imperfect people. That's how you become perfect. And because you've been mistreated by imperfect people, you're broken. And those of you who are broken will start to look for something. And it's very hard to find because everywhere you look, Buddhism, Christianity, even Christianity, the most perfect religion on earth, is compromised. It's wooden. It's socialized. It's what do they call it? It's I can't find the word for it, but it's
apostate?
It's apostate, yeah, but that's not the word I'm looking for. It's like a bureaucracy. It's like a bureaucracy. It's bureaucratized. It is formalized. And it's dead. And you've got dead people going to school how to be a Christian. Who needs to go to school to be a Christian? The Spirit descends on people that search for it. Well, how do you meet that descending? You sit still. Because when you sit still, you stop running. And when you stop running, He catches up with you. Simple. Stop running. He comes to greet you. Got it?
All right. Denise says, I can stop all the voices, but I don't know which one my voice is after it's quiet and I can listen to it again. I don't know which voice is me.
None of them.
I hear the quiet voice, not in words, but again, which one is mine?
You have no voice. This is not my voice. I'm just a loudspeaker. I'm a receiver. I've got a little crystal set here, and I'm tuned to the right channel. Blah, 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 blah. That's what just babies say. Otherwise, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to say anything.
Let me turn to Fox.
Oh, thank you. See what happens when I get turned off?
Angela is curious, why wouldn't meditation work for your wife?
She is not willing. She's willful. And I sometimes think that was meant. I'm perfectly content with it because it all turned out all right anyway, and she'll be all right. She'll be all right or dead, one of the two. I don't care which one it is. Meaning, she'll die in her sins. But, okay, I won't miss her. Pity. Shame. I didn't miss my mother, and she was much nicer. I missed my father. There was this. You see, there's certain people you miss. But you know why you miss? Because there's something in them that's godlike, that has a spirit that you feel in tune with, that you have a relationship with, which is almost like having a relationship with God. There's an unspeakable goodness in that person that doesn't will you or manipulate you, or sets an example of what you should be. And it's sweet, silent. A few words, wisdom. I hardly knew my father, but I missed him. I hardly knew him because he was always working. He smoked a lot. I know why now, because he lived with my mother. And he died from the smoking, and what else? He was only 42. But at least he did the best he could with what he had. See? So, purpose. If he hadn't died, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I'd be a diamond cutter. See? So there's a purpose in it. And no one wants their father to die, but if he didn't, I would be not doing what I might be a doctor. But then I don't really think I'd be a good doctor, because I already had my brain turned to mush by going through school, especially these schools today. Okay.
Anna Maria says that she has been told by a fellow meditator to not call for help on anyone but God. But left to my own head, I have no one to talk to and I screw things up. Could use some direction.
Yeah, you call me.
Okay.
Don't listen to him, because at least you're listening to someone. You're calling on him, and he says, don't. He's giving you advice. He gave you the wrong advice. Either I don't know what I'm doing, or I do. If she thinks I know what I'm doing, at least listen to what I have to say. You need to listen to lots of what people say. You pick.
I'm told okay, never mind. We have another Denise. She says, I've been meditating for 3 months. Is it normal that I sometimes feel sleepy or get a headache after I meditate? I don't struggle.
Headache, yes.
She says, I don't struggle with a headache, but just watch it and it goes away.
Yeah, headache. Actually, bad headaches can come because there are certain things that repress. They're very repressed. You ever see the Manchurian Candidate?
Yes.
All of them had headaches and strange dreams, which is true. So when you have repressed experiences, traumatic experiences, and you've repressed them, something starts to rise, and you're struggling with it. naturally you struggle with everything that rises because that's how you deal with everything inside you. You're angry with it, struggling with it, frustrated.
Right.
You conflict. So that conflict is now forms headache. And the headaches, I can't give you the exact physiology of it, but that's what happens. Headache, yes. Tired, yes. You're beginning to not run on angry energy. So that normally where you give a shot to a racehorse, you get more mileage out of it. You give steroids to someone, you get more mileage out of it. Emotion is like a steroid. When that doesn't work, you can have ways of amplifying those emotions, by chemistry. But so when you start to sit quietly, you start to give up the old way of moving and having your being, which is emotion. Excitement, love, looking forward, wow, I'm making a lot of money, or see, yes, I did it, or angry emotion. My wife runs on angry emotion. She's very busy moving. And I'm talking to, she moves this and she moves that. She hears my words, I hear you, but she only hears me, doesn't understand me. I said, stop moving the things around while I'm talking. I learned this, I want to tell you the story. I had a man who I trusted, or gave him a chance. He was on welfare, but in England, he had a car, and the government was taking care of him, but he's very, very bright. And he's one of the people who listened to me on Radio Caroline in the channel, was a radio station, the channel in England. So it was just a pirate station. And I had a lot of people listening to me in England. So I had nobody else to put in charge of the foundation that I formed there, so I did it with him. He stole from me. But the point is, he had a little apartment, and I had dinner with him one evening. And so, I called him on it. I said, how is it you can actually quote all my lectures and people respect you, and yet you're what you are? So he squared with me, believe it or not. I was done with him. And he said, well, I'll send you the money I owe you, but he didn't, right? But he says, I make myself my favorite dish, I remember it, spaghetti bolognese, which is the only thing he knew how to make. It was spaghetti with sauce, tomato sauce. And so while he's listening to me on radio, he's eating his spaghetti bolognese. And he always does that. And you see, why I do it is while I'm eating it, I don't have to get the meaning, I can just remember the words. And so the tendency is for people, when music moves you, see, you got to watch people getting like this. You ever seen it? Throw themselves in. I saw it. Some of those exercises, you see they're selling you some system of exercises, and you see the ladies going, they're really into it. So you got to be. I hope I imitated that fairly well. I've had no experience in acting, but if you let music flow through you, if you stay busy, you can't really understand anything. It's the flowing of the music through you keeps you. It arouses emotion so that it draws you away from the truth of your unhappiness, the truth itself. See, and so drugs, music, especially the music that excites, with discord. Discordant music that doesn't make any sense with all silly lyrics that don't mean anything. Music is just a way of saying nothing. That's all there is to it. But nothing isn't just not nothing. It has a purpose. It has a way to draw you away from your true self. And so when you're walking down the street, if you listen to a lot of music, you still have this music as a backdrop, so that your conscience doesn't get through. And you can't get rid of the music. It's like talking to yourself. It's just, see that? Or studying scriptures. Words. Or getting upset. Those words go round and round and round. And you're struggling with them. And you can't hear your conscience. So, what was the question again? Sorry.
The question was about her having headaches after she meditates.
Yeah, well, how did I get to that one? Well, anyway, it's ancillary information. Yes, so that when years and years and years of repression, and you start to wake up, the energy that kept all that alive, see, is become unbearable. Your life is unbearable because of the energy. But if you just sit quietly, then you start to get tired, because you're a racehorse that's it just can't run anymore. You can't arouse the energy anymore. You don't want to anymore. You're ready to submit to anything, but it better be God. See, it's either death or God. That's where I can help a person most, when he's on that threshold. I'm about to kill myself. I'm about to do something else. I don't want to do it. And they turn the radio on and they hear me. And if I'm saying the right thing in the right way, in the right tone, they never heard before, they know it, they recognize it. And those are the people who get better like that. Those people here are getting better too slowly. They come every week and they're sort of coming to get something from me. I'd rather have empty chairs. See that? But they do need it. I mean, no, I'd rather, it's just a figure of speech. They do need it because they're so character deficient. The spoiling, see, because that does that. Over the years you're spoiled, and you take drugs, and you go from one marriage to another, and you find a practitioner who does herbs, and you find all these phony people because you invent an illness that you don't really have, and you become dependent on that person, so you don't have to really see what's wrong with you, and they keep treating you for the wrong illness, and you call this diet or that diet. I mean, your whole life is diagnosing your own self, getting diagnosed wrong, and always the diagnoses are incorrect except when it's obvious. But then it's too late, you've got cancer. It's obvious, you can see it. But all the steps to that cancer, to that miserable suffering, where you're on the gates of hell and death, you have always misdiagnosed yourself, and if you diagnosed it wrong, you don't know how to treat it. Many people would rather think of the character of cancer, for example, certain kinds, and which is most of them. They'd rather think of the cancer and die with it and think there's something wrong with their body and curse the doctors for saving them, not saving them, than see it as a spiritual fault. That they're being eaten up from the inside by some other force than themselves. That they are a slave of evil, eaten away from the inside. It's not what you eat, it eats you from the inside. And so that it nips away at your character until there's no more character left. There's only a shell, a husk, with someone trying to keep it alive with compassion and making it worse. The whole human race, the whole world could be better like this if 1/3 of them, or 10%, would suddenly start to shine on the rest of us. See how much more influence me, one man, has? I'm helping thousands of people getting better. Those thousands of people, if they have be good examples, have effect on their family. Those families grow up to have an effect on their family. That's the way Jesus wanted it. That's why he never left any written words. He never left any holy writ. He left spirit. I must go away, and I will send the Spirit of truth, and it will come upon you. He was the Savior. He did what needed to be done. He set something in motion. And so we hope that it spreads through one man's sin, and death through sin spread through the human race. One man does the opposite. One man comes and does the opposite. Now, I'm Jewish. I see the importance of having a man come into this world who actually knows God, not one who went to school to learn him, like a rabbi. None of them were worth spit. No, any of your preachers are worth spit. Pardon me. They're not worth spit. A preacher, a rabbi, ain't worth spit because he learned it in school. He's giving you an agenda. There's thousands of agendas. Which one's right? Do they lead you to God? Yes. If they lead you to God, you don't need the agenda. You're a free man. But would you like your religion that did that? Yes, you would. But I don't want the one to keep programming me to be Jewish, keep programming me to be Christian. What have I learned if I have to keep being programmed? Nothing. Do I have to be taught 1 and 1 is 2? Or can I go on to other things and discover stuff for myself and become Einstein. Well, you'll never be a human being if you have to be told every week by a preacher, God loves you, Jesus says, and Jesus loves you, and Jesus this, and Jesus this, and Moses this, and Moses that, and Muhammad this. Hell with it. That's not what they wanted. Not the Jesus and the Moses I know. They want it from the heart. They don't have a heart. People who go to school to learn religion are just jumping through hoops to get a degree and wear a collar. And sometimes they're very nice people, but not nice enough. The spirit's missing. They're dead people. Sorry. We need to be united. One nation under God, and we can't be split like this. What we've got is a Balkan American. A Balkan America. We're split in thousands. We've all got these different representatives arguing and fighting. So wonder we still have a country. And all the religious people are juxtaposed against the not so religious people. But the not so religious people, are much more united under the devil. At least the religious people got, some rules. They're trying to be good. The other guys, they all united. Drug addicts, alcoholics, you know what it is. Rebels, communists, understanding, exploiting all these weaknesses in people and their rebellion against, if that's God, I don't want nothing to do with it, kind of rebel. They're my kind. We use them as cannon fodder, useful idiots. See? And the Christians and the Jews and everybody else create their own rebels. And they go to that side. And they look silly. With their rituals, they look silly. It looks silly. All their little rituals. Right self, it's like the movements I mentioned, like the spaghetti bolognese and moving little things around. You've got these little rituals that remind you that you are what you're not. They are reinforcements. Once you get a ritual, you do the ritual every day. If I hypnotized you and said, I could show you, I could actually do this. Let me make a point. Every behavior is a result of a hypnotic trauma. Trauma is hypnotic, always. No exception. So when you're upset, that is hypnotic. Resentment is a hypnotic key to your soul. All tyrants know it. Now let me just take that over. So I come in, I can take that over. I can take your shell, I call it, your human shell. I can take the machinery over. Not necessarily your soul, because I don't want to go there. I know how to do that too, but I can't. I don't want to do that. But let's play with you. So I say, from now onwards, look, now stand on your head. You will. If I ask you, why did you stand on your head? You'll give me an excuse. In other words, you will find an excuse to it, so you won't have to admit, I made you do it. Well, it's yoga. I like to practice that. I said, okay. See that glass of water on the table? There's half a glass of water. I want you to drink it right now. You'll do that too. From now onwards, every time you see a glass of water, half a glass, I'll make it specific. You'll remember to do your exercise. Stand on your head. 20 years later, I come back. You're standing on your head. I knock on the door. Oh, hello, Mr. Masters, how are you? He doesn't know I made him did it. I said, just a minute, I'm just going to finish my exercise. You see him standing on his head doing his yoga. He's very good at it now. He's got strings through his nose and through his ear. He's learned the whole Geschmier. He's standing on his head. I said, why did you do that? He says, well, no, I'm just interested in yoga. I said, no, I made you do it. He won't believe it. I can't convince him. I'm the one who did it. Now I can't, because now it's into the soul. He's made so many excuses for it, he really believes it. Now I could relieve him of that. And I tell you one story now. One story so you understand the danger of this. I ran Institute of Hypnosis as a hypnotherapist for 7 years. This is where I learned everything. I learned everything that's not in books. And so thousands of people would come through my office, and I was doing very well. As I got in trouble with medical society, you know. They put me in jail for a few weeks. And I carried on inside the jail, and they didn't know what to do with me. But the point is, there was a young man in that office building I rented from his father, who was in the insurance. I remember Linus Harden. Isn't that funny? I remember his name. He were friends, but his son was spoiled, and he was learning to be an accountant. But he would always tease me in the commissary down the hall. Rude, insulting, you're a fake. Yeah, hypnotize me. And I said, all right. I said, one day I said, I am going to hypnotize you now. Oh yeah? I said, yes. I said, let me show you. It shocked him. The minute I exert confidence, you throw people. And I exude confidence like you wouldn't believe when it's ready. And that kind of confidence that throws people. See? Not that I want to do that anymore. So I could see it. I said, now you tell me, what's the most important thing in your life right now? Like a fool. See, I'm Hannibal Lecter all of a sudden. And he can't help but answer. I said, answer me. You want me to hypnotize you? You say I can't do it? He says, yes, I'm going to take my exam on Monday to become, it's very important to me. All right, you're not going to do it. I said, you hate me? He said, what do you mean? I said, you hate me, resent me? Yes. I said, I'm going to show you that resentment, I'm going to tell him how I did it. I'm like, what's that guy out? See this foot? Billy Jack. See this foot? I'm going to put this right in the side of your head, and there's nothing you can do about it. Bang. Right? Remember that? So I said, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to do it. Resentment is a hypnotic emotion. Oh, come on. I said, resentment isn't normal. Oh, yes, it is. I said, I'll tell you what, get the biggest head of resentment you can right now, and I guarantee you that you will not be able to pass your exam on Monday. He said, you're crazy. So, because he runs on anger and he just is a compensator. He said, how do you feel? Yeah, I'm all right. So Monday comes, Tuesday comes, Wednesday comes, 6 months later, there's a knock on the door. There's a man who was 6'2". He's still 6'2", but he's only half the size. And my wife stands there, she never forgets it. 6 months later, he knocks on the door, we open the door, I don't recognize him. It's him. And guess what he says? Take this thing off of me. I said, stop resenting me and you'll be all right. I closed the door in his face. Got it? Does that carry a message? About everything. In other words, 6 months later, I didn't have to do any more. It's self-replicating. The more he tried, all of a sudden he couldn't concentrate. The more he tried to concentrate, the more upset he got. The more he got upset, the more it triggered. All your illnesses are self-replicating. Means you resent yourself. You keep resenting others because you can't live up to the expectations, or people look like the people who did it to you. They look like their glass of water. They wear a belt that your father beat you with, and it looks like that. So therefore it becomes your father. So a husband speaks up to a wife in a way that he should, but it's because it's a man. She takes umbrage to it, and therefore her relationship with her mother remains bonded, and she shares what all women share. All women hate their husbands. There's not a single woman alive that doesn't hate her husband secretly. No matter how nice he is on the surface.
We've got a question about that from a man. He says, I have a daughter out of wedlock when I was young and dumb. She's 16 now, and over the years, her mother has transferred her hate for me into our daughter.
Oh, that's typical.
Now she can't control her and wants me to try, but I really think there's nothing that I can do.
Yeah, there is.
What do you think?
Well, the point is, that's his daughter. Well, the question is, what is the sentiment of the daughter towards this father? What is the sentiment? Is there a longing there? The question is there a longing for that father, because he seems too eager to give this up. That was my daughter. or my granddaughter for that much. I never gave up on any of them, even though they would come in, use me, stay with me, curse me, and walk out when they wouldn't clean up their room. And all of them did that to some degree. But all of them stayed at my house for 6 months, a year, just to see if I could help them. But they just weren't ready for me. But then they went out in the cold, and eventually they came back. And here I am. They just kept on calling me, "Hi, Grandpa." And I said, "How are you doing, Joshua? How are you doing? You still don't sound like the Joshua I know." And he starts to coo. I said, "Look, Joshua, look, nice." Hang up. And he'd call me for years and years. Slowly but surely he'd come around. He'd always call. He's always testing me to see if there's love there. I'm always there. I always answer the phone. We also talk. And when he starts talking nonsense, I said, "You're doing it again. Call me when you don't want to do it." Hang up. Quietly. Not get off the phone. Bang. See? Persistent. Persistence. Or perfect, flawless, unbroken persistence. Never a breach. Ever. Okay?
We have a lot of family questions today. Patty says, "I know that my whole life has been a mistake. I've done many things I'm ashamed of. My daughter is really messed up, and I know what I have done. She has 2 children, not married, living with a man. I want to help her, but I know I would be wrong because of my guilt. I have run to her every time she calls. What should I do about her, and especially about my grandchildren, 2 boys? I've been meditating a long time, but still confused about this."
Get your will out of it. Leave her alone. Wait for her to come back and say, "Look, come over here and live. Look, if you've got a problem, it's because you're rebelling against me. I'm sorry about that. I've messed up. You've run to a guy looking for a father you didn't have. I drove your dad away," something like that. Some variation of that theme. And she says, "Look, I'm a different person. See, I'm different. Am I different? Yes, Mom, I think you look. Why don't you bring the kids back and leave that man alone for a while? And then we'll talk. And maybe I'll help you. Maybe. You see? And then maybe we can have a life together without guys. See? And maybe, and maybe you'll get better and you'll get better and you won't be so eager to look for security in some dirtbag. When you look for security, you're going to get a dirtbag.
And then we have a question from Dan who says, "I've been using your meditation for a little over a year. I live at peace with myself most of the time, and I'm getting much better all the time. However, I no longer feel a push for doing great things or pursuing goals, which is good and yet puzzling. I feel as though I no longer know what I want to do with myself. Is this a normal result of meditation?"
Let me put it this way. I really don't know what the hell I'm doing either. So it makes 2 of us. I have never known what the hell I'm doing. I always know when it's there. This is how you know it. The moment crosses your path, right? There's a moment where something happens which requires a decision, a pressure on you, which normally produces resentment, and then you start to figure out what to do, and but you're already finished. So, but my life is full of those, thousands of them every day. I just look at it. It's either obvious or it isn't. Those are the moments. It's obvious if it isn't. If it isn't, I don't do it. If it is, I do it. And I do whatever it is that's obvious. But my own brain is not in the way, because my brain, intellect is very limited to the solutions. My senses, my hearing, my seeing, the sense of things around me comes through my brain to my soul. And my soul is like unified with my Creator. So therefore the answers come through that moment. In other words, it's almost like I'm living a fraction of a second before the event. And I've had plenty of time to think it over, but I haven't given it a thought. The knowledge comes to me, or the knowing comes to me, but it doesn't say, it says do this or do that. It doesn't talk. I find myself doing it. What else would you do? A brave man, if a man is brave and he runs into a fire without thinking, and people say, "How did you do that?" He said, "Well, the brave man will say, what do you mean? How do I do that? What else would you do? See? Is there any other choice? You want to run in to save, even to save the dog. If you want to save the dog, it's up to you. But save a little child, you rush in there, risk your own life. And you wouldn't think, should I risk my life, should I not risk my life? Is that right or wrong? You don't think. That doesn't mean to say there's no thinking on a higher level. Self-sacrifice, always on a higher level. See that? And you're not always self-sacrificing, but you're saying no, and you are also, in a sense, self-sacrificing because ordinarily, as a selfish person, you expect an outcome. So really, all you're giving up is selfishness. And you find out you haven't given up anything. It feels like you're giving something up, doesn't it? Okay.
That's it for questions for now.
Well, we're done then. Well, I thought they're going to wear me out today. Well, I think then we're kind of, unless there's a, I think we've covered a lot of ground here, have we not? I would just say that those of you new to this, I don't know if there's any new people listening today, but we have a beautiful ranch here, and it's going through a metamorphosis. It's been run down for a long time because we didn't have the money, and someone gave me some money, and I'm fixing, all the things that need to be fixing. We've also fixing it for the military, because we will use our lecture hall, which is very comfortable and has theater seats and a stage and lighting, to help the veterans when that time comes, because Colonel Monaco, who is in charge of the organization Patriot Outreach, is going to be the venue, the place where they will be funneled and money will be raised to help veterans that need a little more help than the CDs we give them, because most of the CDs help them just like that. The CD will help you, the civilian version will help you if you're a civilian, because it doesn't have all the military stuff on it, which is necessary for the military. But so if you go to the CD, you'll find those few words on that CD delivered in such a way that if you follow them, you'll find your salvation. And it's not Muhammad. And it isn't Moses. I won't tell you who else it could be.
It's not. Oh.
And it was not you. And it's not me. But it's within you, that spirit that Jesus left, see, behind, here. It's there for anybody who would just sit quiet and invite it. Because love, two kinds of love. The love of the world is a yearning for things, isn't it? And the evil of people rise as if you croon sweetly for its presence. It's always there. The devil in other people will rise in a pretty girl or a guy or a dope pusher or someone. It will rise in a way you may not see at first. Always hell will rise if you cry outwardly. You send a pheromone out, and someone will sniff it. It doesn't matter how many miles away it is, it'll sniff it. And you have nothing but misery. But when you see this, the hunger, the longing, the love of the world, longing. Love is longing. It doesn't need more than longing. But then when you see that, there's only one longing left. When you see that's not the right one, what to do? You feel insecure. That's a good thing. Feel insecure, don't remedy it. And it leaves an emptiness to be filled, where it was filled by the world. Leave it alone. Walk around empty. Walk around feeling stupid, and don't, because you are. Walk around knowing, I don't know what to do with my life, I wish I did. But no, not so many words. And that cry goes up the antenna of your soul, and before you know it, you start to see things, and life is effortless. And then you say, like I said to the man that runs into the fire, what else would I do? Thank you for listening.